Lewis Hamilton has finally uncovered a crucial flaw that's been quietly crippling his Ferrari SF-25 ever since his debut season with the iconic Scuderia began to spiral downward. After yet another demoralizing performance, this time at the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka, the seven-time world champion stepped forward to reveal a hidden technical issue that could explain the disappointing form that's plagued him so far. Maybe this is the turning point he's been chasing. In Japan, Hamilton struggled to make an impact, finishing a distant seventh in a race that did little to shift the momentum of his faltering season. Since switching from Mercedes Silver to Ferrari Red, Lewis has been stuck in a cycle of mediocrity, with each Grand Prix adding more questions than answers. But now, there's a glimmer of clarity. For the first time, he has identified what he believes to be the root of the car's poor performance, something far deeper than just tire choices or minor setup adjustments. He explained that the team has found a component within the car that has consistently failed to deliver the performance it was designed for across the past few races. While it may sound like a minor defect, in Formula One even a tenth of a second per lap can mean the difference between battling for podiums or being lost in the midfield. And for a driver of Hamilton's caliber, those margins are everything. His journey with Ferrari has been turbulent from the outset. In Melbourne, he was thrown into chaotic conditions, wrestling with a car he had only tested in dry sessions before. The result was a frustrating 10th-place finish, leaving fans baffled and the Ferrari garage desperate for answers. Shanghai brought a brief moment of brilliance. In the sprint race, Hamilton rolled back the years, converting a surprise pole position into a dominant win. It felt like a rebirth, a moment that reignited hope for his time in red. But the excitement was short-lived. In the main race, he slipped down the order, and to make matters worse, both Ferraris were later disqualified due to post-race technical checks. The momentum vanished just as quickly as it had arrived. Then came Suzuka, a track Hamilton knows and loves. Yet once again, there was no magic. He qualified 8th and only managed to climb to 7th, overtaking rookie Isaac Hadjar in one of the few noteworthy moves of the day. It was a quiet race. No fireworks. No comeback. Just another reminder of how far off the pace he's been since the season began. But now, with this technical issue exposed, the path forward is finally taking shape. There's a quiet optimism in the paddock. Maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of the comeback. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Hamilton's journey and want to stay updated on every dramatic twist, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this engine running, and there's plenty more racing drama to come. Stay tuned. After just 3 rounds, the current championship standings paint a bleak picture. Lewis Hamilton finds himself all the way down in 8th place, trailing the surprising championship leader Lando Norris by a staggering 47 points. And Ferrari's situation in the constructors' standings isn't any more flattering. The Scuderia has only gathered 35 points so far, while McLaren continues its charge with growing momentum. As a result, all attention has now shifted to the recently uncovered flaw within Hamilton's car. What exactly is this mysterious issue that's been holding him back? Could it be a subtle aerodynamic imbalance, a structural quirk in the chassis, or perhaps a power unit inefficiency? So far, no one at Ferrari has been willing to explain the full picture, but Hamilton's words suggest the problem is tangible, quantifiable, and more importantly, something that could potentially be corrected. And if the fix translates into improved on-track performance, there's still a chance that Hamilton's debut season in red could be rewritten into a tale of redemption. The pressing question now is whether any turnaround will arrive in time to salvage 2025 or if this is just another chapter in a saga of wasted potential. One thing is beyond doubt. When a driver with Hamilton's pedigree, confidence, and insight says he's being limited by a technical shortcoming, it's worth paying attention. Time is not on Ferrari's side, and they cannot afford to let their star signing spend another race Sunday battling in obscurity. Although Hamilton has chosen not to reveal the full details, there are a few telling clues that begin to shed light on what might be going wrong with his SF-25. What we do know is this: the 7-time world champion confirmed that a persistent, unidentified issue has been costing him just over 1/10 of a second per lap. That might seem insignificant to the casual observer, but in the razor-thin margins of Formula One, it's massive. That sort of loss turns potential podiums into midfield struggles. Paddock whispers suggest the problem is rooted somewhere in the rear of the car. But perhaps the most concerning aspect is not the problem itself, but the fact that Ferrari's engineers are aware of it yet still unsure of its origin. They recognize there's a performance gap, they can see the difference in data, but they haven't pinned down the root cause. As Hamilton explained in rather frank terms, the team knows something's wrong, but they can't yet identify exactly what it is, can't name it, can't trace it. The hope is that an upcoming component upgrade might resolve the problem. There's growing speculation that Ferrari is preparing to introduce a new part, possibly as early as the Bahrain Grand Prix. But that also opens the door to a more uncomfortable question. If the team still doesn't fully understand what's going wrong, how confident can they be that a new part will actually solve it? Fixing the symptoms without addressing the source could only lead to further complications down the line. One of the more unexpected revelations from Hamilton wasn't just about the car's general behavior. It hinted at a possible imbalance within the Ferrari garage itself. He subtly implied that his SF-25 might not be delivering performance on par with Charles Leclerc's car in these opening rounds. He noted slight differences in components between both sides of the garage and openly admitted he's been underperforming compared to expectations. Being able to pinpoint the cause now brings at least some clarity. This revelation adds a new layer to the internal dynamics at Ferrari. At Suzuka, Leclerc clearly outshone Hamilton. He outqualified him by 0.3 of a second and finished the race 13 seconds ahead, comfortably securing 4th place while Hamilton settled for 7th. The implication is subtle, but it's there. Could Leclerc's car be free of the same gremlins haunting Hamilton's machine? And if that's the case, is one side of the garage operating with better performing setups or even superior parts? These questions remain unanswered, but Hamilton's comments have definitely stirred discussions about equality and transparency within the team. Formula One rests on the assumption that both drivers receive identical machinery, but history has shown that even small deviations can arise, whether intentional or not. During Sky Sports F1's coverage of qualifying in Japan, veteran commentator David Croft pointed out a few visual oddities in Hamilton's car. Observing the rear end, he remarked that it didn't appear well planted, suggesting it lacked the stability expected from a car of that caliber. 1997 world champion Jacques Villeneuve echoed that sentiment, adding that the Ferrari seemed to be sliding more than it should. The vehicle looked unsettled, struggling to maintain grip, and excessive tire overheating was a worrying sign, especially when considering long-run race pace. These external observations seem to confirm what Hamilton has been trying to convey about the SF-25's rear-end instability. Analysts reviewing his onboard footage have picked up on erratic behavior and a clear lack of composure in high-speed corners. The car appears jittery, nervous, unwilling to hold its line through fast sections, issues that make the difference between contending and merely surviving on race day. As the championship moves forward, Ferrari faces a critical test, not just in fixing the SF-25's mysterious glitch, but in demonstrating that both sides of their garage are truly operating on equal terms. Hamilton may be struggling now, but if this problem gets solved, the fight could reignite. And if it doesn't, this could go down as one of the most frustrating campaigns of his storied career. If you've made it this far and enjoy this kind of deep analysis, make sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps the fire burning, and there's much more ahead as the story of Hamilton at Ferrari continues to unfold. There are glaring signs that something isn't right at the rear of Lewis Hamilton's SF-25. And when a driver of his pedigree starts visibly struggling with balance, it becomes more than just a curious detail. It's a red flag. But this is only part of a larger, tangled web of issues, and the real unraveling may have started in China. That race, which saw Hamilton cross the line in 6th, ended in disqualification after post-race scrutineering found excessive plank wear underneath his car. In essence, the car was running too low, breaching regulations put in place to prevent teams from exploiting low ride heights for aerodynamic gain. The response was immediate. Ferrari was forced to raise the ride height of both cars ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. While this change ensured legal compliance, it came at a steep price. In modern ground effect Formula One machinery, running low to the asphalt is absolutely vital to generate maximum downforce. Lifting the car off the ground compromises airflow beneath the chassis and drastically reduces grip, especially in fast corners, where ground effect is king. Hamilton confirmed as much. The car is now running higher than ideal, likely as a direct consequence of the disqualification in Shanghai. This has placed Ferrari in a tough spot. Either they keep the car within regulatory limits and sacrifice performance, or they risk dipping back into the gray zone and facing another humiliating disqualification. Neither choice is particularly comforting. And for Hamilton, still trying to adapt to a radically new machine and a team that functions very differently from what he's used to, the situation has become increasingly complex. At this stage, Hamilton's struggles can no longer be dismissed as the natural growing pains of joining a new team. There is mounting evidence, from lap time data, visual assessments, technical regulation fallout, and Hamilton's own candid admissions, that the issues are more structural. Whether it's a mysterious instability at the rear of the car, unequal component distribution between the drivers, or the raised ride height wreaking havoc on handling, the situation is deteriorating. Ferrari desperately needs a breakthrough. If the upcoming component update slated for Bahrain fails to close the gap, the narrative surrounding Hamilton's move to Ferrari could shift from hopeful renaissance to painful collapse. And for a driver with his legacy, that's a story no one wants to see unfold. What happened in Suzuka was yet another chapter in this unsettling saga. Once again, Lewis Hamilton was at the epicenter of Ferrari's 2025 troubles. And what's becoming increasingly clear is that the team is trapped in a vortex of compounding issues, technical faults, communication gaps, and strategic misfires that are unraveling what once seemed like a fairy tale beginning for Hamilton in red. True to form, Hamilton didn't sugarcoat things. The British driver, known for his unfiltered assessments, described a familiar pattern playing out. One small problem snowballs into another, and the entire weekend collapses under its own weight. This domino effect, as he explained, is a recurring theme. One issue triggers another, and by the end of the race weekend, the entire campaign feels derailed. One of the key driving issues he highlighted in Japan was understeer, especially during qualifying. Hamilton admitted he simply couldn't wrestle the car into the right trajectory through corners. Combined with the elevated ride height, this created a handling package that was hard to control and, more importantly, not competitive. When a Formula One car refuses to rotate properly in medium and low-speed corners, the problem often stems from either a deeper aerodynamic imbalance or a mechanical flaw, possibly linked to the same rear-end instability that has plagued Hamilton for 3 straight rounds. But Ferrari's headaches don't stop at the car. There is growing unease that communication channels between the drivers and engineering staff are eroding, perhaps even fracturing. Throughout the Japanese Grand Prix weekend, multiple team radio exchanges hinted at growing tension and a lack of clarity between the cockpit and the pit wall. One such moment occurred during the race when Hamilton, clearly exasperated, demanded specific feedback from his race engineer regarding where he was losing time. The reply he got was vague. Turns 8, 9, 13, and 14. Not satisfied, Hamilton pressed harder, asking for precise data. The engineer, somewhat unprepared, mumbled something about losing a tenth in turn 89, a response that exposed a startling lack of preparedness and synergy. This wasn't an isolated case. Charles Leclerc, too, had a testy radio exchange during the same weekend when engineers suggested a setup adjustment. His reply was sharp and dismissive, essentially telling the team he'd already chosen not to follow their advice for a reason. These brief yet telling moments didn't go unnoticed. Former world champion Damon Hill chimed in on social media, comparing Ferrari's radio chatter to an old married couple bickering, an attempt at humor that underscored a much grimmer truth. The internal harmony of the team appears to be falling apart. Later, Hamilton provided a brutally honest assessment of Ferrari's place in the pecking order. "Right now," he said, "Ferrari is the fourth fastest team. No sugarcoating, no ambiguity." He even quantified the gap, stating that the top teams are 3 or 4 tenths per lap ahead. That's an enormous deficit. And in Formula One, it might as well be a canyon. The work required to bridge that gap is substantial, and Hamilton made it clear that the team has a mountain to climb. His words became even more damning when he admitted that the SF-25 simply has nothing left to give. That's a devastating realization for a driver who felt he had delivered flawless laps, nailed his execution, and still found himself finishing well outside the fight for podiums. That kind of disconnect between effort and result is soul-crushing for any elite athlete. On the surface, the only positive to take from Suzuka was that the team maximized what was available to them. The downside? That maximum wasn't nearly enough. Both Hamilton and Leclerc seem united in their frustration, their brutal honesty confirming what the lap charts and sector times already suggested. Ferrari is nowhere near where they expected or needed to be after a promising end to 2024. They are currently behind Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes, and unlike their rivals, Ferrari's development path looks worryingly stagnant. As the others accelerate, the red team seems stuck in neutral. And yet, despite the bleak atmosphere, there is still a surprising flicker of hope. A recent Express Sport poll found that 55% of readers still believe Hamilton can mount a title challenge this year. But that belief hinges on two big ifs. Ferrari must deliver a massive performance leap quickly, and their two main rivals, Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, need to consistently take points from each other over the course of the season. Team principal Frédéric Vasseur remains publicly upbeat. He drew comparisons to Ferrari's turnaround last year, reminding the media that they clawed back a 6/10 deficit early in 2024. According to him, the current gap is less important than how the team reacts in the coming weeks. Everything has to improve, not just the car's potential, but the efficiency with which that potential is extracted. But as if technical gremlins and communication mishaps weren't enough, Ferrari's strategy in Suzuka also left Hamilton exposed. The team had gambled on a potential safety car deployment to shake up the race and create an opportunity window. That gamble didn't pay off. The race ran clean from start to finish, and Hamilton was locked into a plan that no longer made sense. Afterwards, he reflected on it calmly but clearly. The medium tire was the right call for the chilly conditions at the start, but the lack of a safety car erased any advantage. That quiet statement hinted at deeper strategic flaws, decisions made based on assumptions rather than real-time adaptability. And that, too, is an area where Ferrari has long struggled under pressure. So here we are. Just 3 races into the season, and the storm clouds are already gathering over Maranello. What was once imagined as a heroic rebirth for Lewis Hamilton in red is beginning to resemble a slow-motion nightmare. The car isn't quick enough. Communication is breaking down. Strategy is unreliable. And the pressure is compounding with every race. If things don't change, and fast, the conversation will shift from whether Hamilton can win the championship to whether Ferrari can even stay competitive in 2025.